Welcome back viewers. Hope you all are doing absolutely fine. So in this particular video, we are going into more detail about digestion and absorption. So human digestive system, it consists of alimentary canal and associated gland. So in the previous part, we had seen that there are mechanical processes and biochemical processes for the breakdown of complex food substance into its most absorbable form. So these are the system where this particular process will occur. So first we will take on alimentary canal. Now alimentary canal, they are 8 to 9 meter long, and the alimentary canal begins with the anterior opening, which is mouth. So the complex food, we are taking it through mouth, and it opens out posteriorly through the anus. Now the process of breaking down and absorption will take in within this particular system, and there are some remaining which will flush out or eliminate it through the anus portion. The mouth leads to the buccal cavity or a oral cavity. The oral cavity has a number of teeth and a muscular tongue. Each tooth, so tooth is basically a singular tongue, so it is embedded in a socket of jawbone. So in the oral cavity, there are socket of jawbone where these tooth are embedded or attached. So the inner part of the tooth is known as root, and that root is attached at the socket of the jawbone. Now the type of attachment is called thecodont. So the arrangement of tooth or teeth is known as thecodont. Majority of mammals, including human beings, form two sets of teeth during their life. So in case of human being, we know that in our childhood till the age of 2 to 3 years approx, there are teeth which we call them milk teeth. And these milk teeth are the temporary teeth, and we call them also deciduous teeth. We call them deciduous teeth. So these terminologies are very important, so please note down. Now these temporary teeth are basically 20 number, and there are no molars. And later what happened, they get replaced by the set of permanent or adult teeth, and this type of dentition is called diffeodont. So the two arrangement or the two sets of teeth, which is one is temporary and another one is permanent, is known as diffeodont, the two types of teeth. Now an adult human have 32 number of teeth, we all know that, and which are four different types, and the different type of teeth are known as heterodont dentition. So heterodont dentition is a terminology which is used for different type of teeth present in any particular single type of organism. Like for human beings, we have four different type of teeth, so we call it heterodont. Heterodont is a different types of teeth. Now the four different type of teeth, they are named as incisors, they are named as canine, they are named as premolars and molars. And we can see here that arrangement of teeth in each half of the upper and lower jaw in order ICPMM. So the order of arrangement in each jaw, suppose this is a jaw, and their arrangement is like two incisors, one canine, we have two premolars and three molars. Similarly, in half portion of the lower jaw, we have same thing, and we mark it 2:1:2:3. So this is, suppose this is upper jaw and this is lower jaw. And the dental formula is 2 is to 2123 upon 2123, and if you multiply it with 2 you will get 32. So these 32 number of teeth are permanent in all adults. Now the hard chewing surface of the teeth made up of enamel. Now enamel is a very hard surface. It's the hardest surface actually of the body where the mastication will take place, and they are very rich in calcium. It helps in mastication of food. The tongue is a free movable muscular organ. It is attached to the floor of the oral cavity by the frenulum. So basically frenulum is a linear type of tissue which attaches the lower surface of your tongue to the lower surface of your mouth. So if you fold your tongue and you will see inside and you will stand in front of mirror, you will observe that there is a lined structure or line type of tissue which is holding this tongue with this surface. So basically what this tissue is, it is frenulum. And what frenulum actually doing, it is stabilizing the free movement of tongue. The upper surface of a tongue has a small projection called papillae. Now papillae are having taste buds and they are having small projections, and it is basically a rough structure. So if you will touch your tongue with your clean hands, you will observe that they are you will feel like some brush kind of thing, or you will have a brush type of sensation when you will touch your tongue. So they have a taste buds. Now oral cavity leads into the short pharynx, which serves as common passage for food and air. Now pharynx is a passage which is common for both food and air, and it is basically a vertical canal and it supports swallowing air. So esophagus and trachea, which is a windpipe, opens into the pharynx because it's a common passage for both, and there is a cartilaginous flap which is called epiglottis, because epiglottis is working as a protecting layer for glottis, which is opening into the windpipe. The epiglottis is what is it doing? It is a cartilaginous flap. So what happens when we are swallowing the food and that food is getting passed through the pharynx? At that time this glottis get closed, so that it may not enter into the windpipe, and rather it moves to the esophagus. Opening the esophagus is a thin long tube which extend posteriorly, passing through the neck, thorax and diaphragm, and reaches or leads to the J-shaped bag which is known as stomach. So what we can see here, that it is a long tube like structure, and this is passing through the neck, thorax and esophagus leads to the stomach. Now the esophagus is a tube that allows the food to reach the stomach, and the movement of food from esophagus to the stomach is via peristalsis. Now peristalsis is basically the movement where the wave of constriction or shrinkage will occur by circular muscles of gut, and these circular muscles of gut will push the food along. A muscular sphincter regulates the opening of esophagus into the stomach. So now what is happening here, basically sphincter or muscular sphincter, they are the rings of muscles that are helping in closing and opening of esophagus, right? So we are going to see this sphincter term at many places wherever there will be an association between any two organ. So the stomach is located in the upper left portion of the abdominal cavity and having four major parts, which is cardiac, fundic, body and pyloric. So body is the main central portion, cardiac is the portion where the food from the esophagus will enter into the stomach region, and the portion which will receive the food from esophagus into the stomach, that region is known as cardiac region. Fundic region is placed upside where the many gases and air is present. Body is the central portion where the food will be stored for some time, and pyloric portion is further leading into the small intestine, and it will connect duodenum, which is the superior portion of small intestine. So we are able to understand that the stomach functions are to store. They also help in blending the complex food substances, that is known as churning, and some amount of absorption is also going to take place over here. Now the further small intestine is distinguishable into three regions. Now from pyloric portion or pyloric region, the food pass to the small intestine where the main absorption is going to take place or main digestion will occur. Now, small intestine is distinguishable into three regions: a C-shaped duodenum, the first part of small intestine, a long coiled middle portion jejunum, and highly coiled ileum. Now, the opening of stomach into the duodenum is guarded by the pyloric sphincter. So, as I told you, the sphincter we are going to see at many places. Now, here again we can see that organ system that they are. The pyloric sphincter is connecting or associating with the small intestine. Ileums open into the large intestine. So ileum is the last portion of small intestine and ileum leads to the large intestine. So some of the functions of small intestines are like first of all, they are the largest part of alimentary canal. Here the main absorption of food is going to occur. Small intestines are having various microvilli and villi that increases the surface area for food absorption. And small intestines, they are also having Peyer's patches that will helping them to fight against the germs. So these are some of the information that I'm giving you with the particular things. And next, moving on to cecum and the large intestine. So from ileum now the absorbed food or material is getting transferred to the large intestine, and in large intestine the first portion is the cecum, then it's colon, and then it is rectum. Now cecum is a small blind sac which hosts some symbiotic microorganisms as well. So now ileum opens into the large intestine and it consists of cecum, colon, and rectum. Now cecum is a small blind sac which is having certain symbiotic microorganisms, narrow finger-like tubular projection, the vermiform appendix. Now there is a small finger projection which is known as vestigial organ or appendix, which is present in the cecum, and there are some symbiotic microorganisms as well. And further, basically what is happening in the largest intestine, it is helping in absorption of water and the formation of feces, and for some time the feces will be temporarily stored over here, and it will, for elimination, it will pass into the rectum, and through rectum it will reach the anus, and from there it will flush out, right? So cecum is having symbiotic organism which is helping in formation of these feces. Next is colon. So what is in the colon? We will see that colon is divided into four parts, that is an ascending, transverse, descending part, and a sigmoid colon. So in this diagram what we can see that this is an ascending colon, number one. The transverse colon which is moving towards the left, so towards right, you can see that this is ascending colon. Transverse colon is moving towards the left, and then it is the descending colon that is moving downward and passing into the sigmoid colon, and sigmoid colon it is moving into rectum. Rectum is passing the waste product into the anus, and through anus it is moving out. So the colon is divided into four parts. We had seen this portion, and into rectum and which opens through the anus. Now we are moving on to the wall of alimentary canals from esophagus to rectum. It possesses four layers, and these four layers are very important because each one of the layers are having particular functions here. So we are going to see it over here. Now first layer is serosa muscularis, then it is muscularis submucosa and mucosa. So serosa to mucosa, we are going from outside towards inside layer, right? So serosa is the outermost layer and it is made up of thin mesothelium epithelium of visceral organs. So epithelium of visceral organs are known as internal organ, right? And they are also having some connective tissues. Now these connective tissues of serosa are helping in lubrication and they prevent frictions over here. Next is muscularis. Now muscularis is formed by smooth muscles and usually arranged into an inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. Now this is very important, that how the smooth muscles are arranged in muscularis. So the inner layers are circular and outer are longitudinally arranged, and oblique muscle cells may be present in some region. So there are oblique muscles as well, but they are present at some portion, but mainly at the outer it is longitudinal and inner it is circular. Now muscularis is helping in the mechanical process, like the movement of material is supported by this muscularis layer. Now next is the submucosal layer, and it is formed of loose connective tissues containing nerves, bloods and lymph vessels. In duodenum, glands are also present in submucosa. So in duodenum, which is a small intestine part, the glands are associated in submucosa. So submucosa are the vessels and it allows the mucosa to move during peristalsis, right? So peristalsis movement you know, and it allows the mucosa to move during this peristalsis movement. Now mucosa is the innermost layer, so we are going to see it now. It is very important. All the layers are very important. Now we are moving to submucosa, which is the innermost layer lying in the lumen of alimentary canal. This layer forms irregular fold, which is rugae in the stomach, and small finger-like foldings called villi in the small intestine. Now, irregular folds they are forming in stomach, and finger-like foldings they are forming in small intestine, which is known as villi. The cell lining the villi produces numerous microscopic projection called microvilli, giving a brush border appearance. And these, so brush border, we can see here that they are like brush border, like the folds, they are having finger-like projections. Now these finger-like projections are basically increasing the surface area for the food or for the absorption of food. Now villi is supplied with a network of capillaries, a large lymph vessels called the lacteal. Right. Now lacteals are the lymph vessels that absorbs fat and soluble vitamins. So you can note down this information. Now villi are supplied with a network of capillaries. We know that they are lacteal, and lacteals are having ability to absorb fat and soluble vitamins. And villi, we know that they are the finger-like projections which are increasing the surface area for absorption. Now there are certain network of capillaries also, and network of blood capillaries, they absorb nutrients over here. Now mucosal epithelium has goblet cells which secrete mucosa. Now mucosa secretion helps in the lubrication that avoids friction, and mucosa also forms glands in the stomach, which is gastric gland, and crypts in between the bases of the villi in the intestine, which is crypts of Leverkuhn. Now crypts are basically helping in repairing of base of villi. So they basically, what they do, they keep on repairing the epithelial tissues of villi bases, or we also call that they help in replenishing the epithelial of villi bases that are helping, the villi layers are helping in the increasing the surface area. Now next we are going to discuss about digestive gland and three important glands of alimentary canal. They are salivary gland, liver and pancreas. So first we will take up saliva or salivary gland. Now salivary glands are produced by three pairs of glands. They are mainly present at the cheek, which is parotid, the submaxillary and submandibular present at lower jaw, and the sublingual, they are present at the below the tongue. So in this diagram we can see that where each gland of saliva are present. So this is the parotid gland, submaxillary gland below the jaw, and sublingual, which is present over here. So we can see the positions of salivary gland at the buccal cavity surface. Now saliva is mainly produced by, we had seen this, these glands are situated just outside the buccal cavity and secrete salivary juice into the buccal cavity. Now the salivary juice are slightly acidic and they are having pH around 6.7 to 6.8. They are also having water with them. They are having salts, they are having mucus, and they are having salivary amylase such as ptyalin. Now these are the compositions of saliva which are produced by salivary gland. Next is liver. So liver is basically the largest gland of body. It is weighing 1.2 to 1.5 kg in an adult human. It is situated in the abdominal cavity just below the diaphragm and has two lobes. The hepatic lobes are the structural and functional unit of liver containing hepatic cells. Now hepatic cells, they are also known as hepatocytes. Hepatic cells, they are also known as hepatocytes. And these hepatic cells are arranged in the form of cords. Each lobule is covered by a thin connective tissue sheet which is known as Gilson's capsule. The bile secreted by the hepatic cell passes through the hepatic duct and is stored and concentrated in the thin muscular sac called the gallbladder. Now, here are some of the points which you have to remember, like the hepatic lobules are the structural and functional unit, and these structural and functional unit are formed of hepatic cells. Now hepatic lobules are formed of hepatocytes, and what is happening here, the bile is separated. So bile is basically secreted by the hepatic cells, and the concentration and the storage is occurring in a thin muscular sac which is known as gallbladder. Now duct of gallbladder is known as cystic duct, and hepatic duct for duct which is present in hepatic cells, or liver duct we can say. Alright, hepatic cells or hepatocytes, they secrete bile and they pass through hepatic duct. Now cystic duct, we know that they are of gallbladder, and cystic duct are storing and concentrating this bile. Now both hepatic duct as well as cystic duct, they are having a common bile duct, right? The hepatic duct from the liver form a common bile duct, right? So hepatic duct of liver and cystic duct of gallbladder, they are forming a common bile duct. The bile duct and the pancreatic duct open together into the duodenum. Now, what is happening further? At first, we have seen that there are hepatic duct and cystic duct. They are commonly forming a bile duct. Next, a common bile duct along with the pancreatic duct. Along with pancreatic duct, they are opening into the duodenum. And the hepatic or cystic duct, which is a common bile duct, plus pancreatic duct, this common duct is known as hepatopancreatic duct. So you can write it in the form which I am telling, that common bile duct which is having hepatic and cystic duct plus pancreatic duct. Together we call it hepatopancreatic duct, and they all are having a common opening, and further they will lead to the duodenum. And the opening of this hepatopancreatic duct into the duodenum is guarded by sphincter of Oddi. Sphincter of Oddi is guarding the opening of this bile duct or hepatopancreatic duct into the duodenum. Now next is the pancreas. Pancreas is a common is a compound which is present at you can see that it is present near to the duodenum, upper to the stomach, and the pancreas is a compound that is having both exocrine and endocrine gland, elongated organ situated between the limbs of sheath-shaped duodenum. The exocrine portion secrete the alkaline pancreatic juice. So exocrine secrete pancreatic juice which is alkaline in nature, having pH 7 to 8, and they are rich in biocarbonates as well. And endocrine glands are mainly secreting hormones like insulin and glucagon. So this is all about pancreas. And one thing more which I would like to add is about bile. So basically biles are formed by the bile pigments like bilirubin and biliverdin, along with bile acids and some cholesterols in the alkaline fluid. So this is all from this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and press the notification icon so that you never miss update. And in the next part, I will discuss about digestion of food. So stay connected and keep learning. Thank you for watching.